The morning light seeped through the curtains, casting a golden glow across the small, cluttered apartment. Dust particles floated lazily in the air, illuminated by the sun's warmth. John blinked awake, his eyes adjusting to the familiar surroundings. The hum of the city filtered through the window, the distant sound of traffic and hurried footsteps below. He threw the blanket aside, the chill of the wooden floor biting at his bare feet. Everything seemed normal, but a strange feeling clung to him, a heaviness he couldn't shake. After a quick shower, he dressed in his usual attire, pulling on a faded jacket and worn-out sneakers. Grabbing his keys, John stepped outside. The corridor smelled of stale air, the walls lined with peeling wallpaper. He took the stairs down, passing the old landlady, who gave him a curt nod. The street was bustling, but something felt off. People walked briskly, heads down, dressed in clothes that seemed dated. Women in mid-length skirts and patterned blouses, men in suits and fedoras. Vintage cars lined the street, their polished chrome reflecting the morning sun. John frowned. Maybe it was some kind of themed event or a movie shoot. But there were no cameras, no crews. Just people moving along as if it were any other day. He passed a newsstand, the vendor barely glancing at him. The newspaper's bold headline read something impossible. The date was from decades ago. His heart pounded. He rubbed his eyes and looked again. The date remained unchanged. Confused, he stumbled into the nearest diner. The small bell above the door jingled as he entered. The scent of freshly brewed coffee and sizzling bacon filled the air. Waitresses in pastel uniforms moved between the booths, pouring coffee into porcelain cups. A jukebox played a crackling tune, a melody from a time he couldn't quite place. The patrons, engrossed in their conversations, barely noticed him. John slid into a booth and scanned the laminated menu. The prices were absurdly low, as though lifted from a distant past. The waitress approached, her hair neatly curled, a bright smile plastered on her face. Her name tag read Betty. She jotted down his order without question, but the unease in his stomach lingered. He glanced around, observing the muted tones of the walls, the antique clock ticking steadily. Everything looked authentic, as if time itself had rewound. After his meal, John wandered aimlessly through the city. Towering buildings loomed, their signage untouched by modern branding. A billboard displayed a black and white advertisement for a product he had only read about in history books. People greeted him politely, though their curious glances were undeniable. The air carried a strange weight, as though the very essence of time was holding its breath.
He tried calling his friends, but the rotary payphone spat out a jarring tone. His smartphone showed no signal, its screen glitching before finally powering down. Panic gnawed at him. Desperately, he searched for anything that could explain what was happening. He approached strangers, asking about the year, but their puzzled expressions only deepened his fear. They spoke of presidents long gone, movies that had just premiered decades ago. It wasn't a dream. He was stuck in yesterday. Days passed, each one blending into the next. John attempted to leave the city, but every road led him back. The landscape outside remained the same, as though the town refused to let him go. His reflections in store windows seemed unnervingly normal, but the world beyond was anything but. He tried to adapt, blending into the daily routines of a bygone era, yet the questions remained unanswered. Then one evening, as the sky turned a muted orange, he noticed something, a flickering sign in the distance. Faint but unmistakable, it was a neon glow that didn't belong in this time. He followed it, the streets eerily quiet. The sign read exit in pulsing letters. With hesitant steps, he approached. The door beneath the sign creaked open, revealing darkness. Without thinking, John stepped through. The air grew cold, the sensation like passing through a veil. He stumbled forward, the world shifting around him. Then, abruptly, he was back in his apartment. The familiar hum of the city filled his ears. Sunlight streamed through the curtains, and his phone buzzed on the nightstand. The date was correct. The nightmare was over. But as he glanced into the mirror, his reflection lingered a moment too long before mimicking his movements. The city outside roared with life, but something deep within him knew the past was never truly gone. The memory of yesterday remained, waiting for its chance to return. The next morning, John woke again, the same light streaming through the same curtains. But this time, the ticking clock on the wall was missing a hand. The newspaper was blank, the sound of the city below oddly muted. Determined, he stepped outside once more. The streets were familiar, yet empty. The world looked paused, as if waiting. A distant echo of footsteps reached his ears, though no one was in sight. He walked, searching for anything alive, but the city stood still. The familiar storefronts were vacant, their interiors darkened. As he approached a corner, a small boy stood staring at him. The child's clothes were pristine, a little too clean. Without speaking, the boy pointed to a broken clock tower in the distance. The minute hand spun erratically, refusing to settle. John followed the silent direction, the tower looming as he neared. Every step felt heavier, the air thickening. When he reached the base, the doors creaked open, revealing a spiraling staircase. Each step echoed with the weight of time. At the top, a massive pendulum swung, defying gravity. Strange whispers echoed from the walls, fragments of conversations from different eras. John's heart pounded. He reached out, and the pendulum stopped. Silence engulfed the tower. Then, in the blink of an eye, the city outside shifted. The streets bustled once more, but the people's faces were blurred, indistinct. John stumbled back, the weight of time pressing against him. He could feel it. The city had let him go, but not without leaving its mark. He returned to his apartment, his hands trembling. The reflection in the mirror was his own, but the faintest flicker of something else remained. He knew the truth now. Yesterday never truly left. It merely waited, and one day, it would return for him.